Hello and welcome to today's Tidings. I'm your host, Joyce Tumia. The Downers Grove Public Library is definitely an asset to our community. And here to talk about it are the relatively new director, Rick Ashton, and one of the Literature and AV Services librarians, Nicole Wilhelm. Now, I like to let my guests start out by sharing some background information on themselves. So before we get into all the interesting, fascinating, wonderful things about the library, who'd like to start? Maybe, I don't know, who would like to start?
Well, let me go first a little bit to give Nicole a chance to warm up while I'm doing this.
It is a little chilly in here until it warms up, you're right.
That's right. I've been glad to be at the Downers Grove Public Library for the past 8 months.
Wow.
I'm still really playing that new guy thing as much as I can. It's about to wear out.
No.
I've been living here in the Chicago area for about 5 years and moved here actually for family reasons a few years back.
Okay.
Most of my library time has been in Denver as the city librarian of the Denver Public Library, a large organization with a lot of complicated city challenges involved. So working here in an environment where there's a manageable size and a scale of community interest that is so positive is really a lot of fun for me.
Well, good. The Denver Library must have been really big compared to the Downers Grove one, but it's not size that matters, it's quality, right?
They're both very good libraries.
They're both very good libraries. Very, very well put. And Nicole, what about your background?
Well, this is my first job out of library school, and I've been at the Downers Grove Library for 4 years.
Okay.
And I'm really enjoying it. I've been tackling a lot of new issues, particularly the ebook issue has been taking up more and more of my time.
And we are definitely going to talk about that, but go ahead.
Mm-hmm. But I really enjoy working at the Downers Grove Library.
Wonderful. Okay. What would you like to talk about first? Shall we jump right into the ebooks, or should we maybe do a little bit more of an overall summary of current things with the library, new changes, ongoing wonderful things like the book discussion groups? What would you like to cover first?
Well, I think it would be good to give a little context.
Okay.
Libraries exist in a changing world, and that change is accelerating as we sit here today.
Very much so.
Everything that we do has gotten faster and more complicated and
yet easier.
And easier in some ways, and less predictable and set. And so one of my really enjoyable challenges at the library during these past months has been to set in motion the planning for how we will embrace this fast-moving world that we are a part of, without losing our traditional character and our role as a center of attraction for the community, especially for children and families, but also for students at all levels, for local business and local government and local politics and all that happens here. We aim to be a really effective resource, and to do that, we're constantly needing to reinvent ourselves.
So for a strategic plan, is that what?
The library board asked me to launch a strategic planning process really right away when I came to work last September. And within the next few weeks, probably by the end of June, we'll be publishing that plan. A 5-year plan that takes you 3 years to write isn't much use.
Right.
This is about a 2.5-year plan that has taken us about 7 or 8 months to develop.
Okay.
And it will have 3 or 4 major areas of emphasis. None of these will make the library unrecognizable to the community.
Well, that's good. It won't suddenly be all steel beams and glass or something. Is this something that involved all the librarians or a representative from different departments? Did it involve the library board? I'm sure it did involve the library board members themselves. What about representatives from the community at large? What exactly is the process for this? Was Nicole a part of this, or?
Oh, she's
Okay.
had
Yes.
plenty to say. I
Oh,
would
okay.
say.
Rick put us right to work, so
Okay.
researching different topics.
Okay.
We set out in a very simple way. In the staff, we have about 115 staff at the
Really?
library.
Full and part-time?
Only about 22 of them are full-time. All the rest are part-time
Really?
workers, very involved in their jobs and in the work we do. And we went through a pretty simple process to say, what are the things we think we need to know more about to move the library forward these next few years? And so we had about 20 small teams who thoroughly investigated things like what's happening in children's publishing, what's going on with technology change in the local public schools, what are the likely kinds of information needs that senior citizens and new immigrants are likely to have. Just a whole range of questions, both about our environment, about the marketplace, about change in the world. It's a remarkable document that has been compiled, and it's really kind of a working file of about 20 of these 3 or 4 page intense reports. From that, the library board has had some very thoughtful discussions about where all of this ought to head, and it has focused on what are the things that we do well now and want to be sure to continue to do. We are a very strong center for reading. And that seems obvious, but yet this library has done a great job of putting books in people's hands. It's an important part of what Nicole does every day as a reader's advisor, and it's one of our main thrusts. And I might ask her to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, tell us about the Reader's Advisory, because I believe that was created or initiated, or the Downers Grove Library was among the forerunners, I'm not sure exactly which, in introducing that and promoting it.
Yes, you're
I
correct.
think it was created here.
Yes,
Okay,
The
wonderful.
previous head of our department, Joyce Sarix, actually has written 2 books about Reader's Advisory that are used. I actually used one of them in one of my classes, and now I'm working at the library where she kind of established the Reader's Advisory in libraries, and we continue that tradition. I think it's a service that patrons particularly enjoy because
we do.
Yeah, and it's a wide variety of things, but mainly it's just helping to put the right book in a reader's hands at the right time, and help them find the perfect book for that moment to read. So
Right, wonderful. Wonderful. And in fact, the library doesn't just encourage people to have book discussions. They promote, well, there are all kinds of things. In fact, the promoting writing itself. It's interesting to me that possibly more through Friends of the Library, because it was Friends of the Library that has been sponsoring the Writers' Workshop, but that there is the whole idea of creating literature as well. So you can read, and then you can think about having your name on a book on a shelf someday, if that's one person's leaning, someone's leaning.
Well, that's both a blessing and a curse of technology.
Right.
The great thing about it is anyone can publish a book.
Right, right.
And the very sad thing about it is anyone can publish a book.
Right. Well, we'll say a book that has been published by a reputable publisher.
A real publisher.
Although some self-published books are very good.
Oh, absolutely. Some big sellers have been certainly self-published.
Yeah. Okay.
So our traditional strength as a center and nurturing environment for reading is certainly one of the things we continue to emphasize, as is our intense service to young children and their families to get them started on a good path for reading and learning. And I recall very fondly the very first week I was on the job here. I went into a story time that was going on, and there were about 80 kids in a room about a little bigger than this studio, but not a lot. And most of them were accompanied by an adult. And it was quite an active, delightful scene. Those things continue to be important parts of our work and our mission.
Now, they were being read to by a librarian from a traditional book, right?
Yes, and they were also being involved in some back and forth with the librarian and responding to questions that are presented as fun, but are certainly also learning opportunities to help get those young kids ready for kindergarten. That's one of our big goals.
I personally think it's never too early to start teaching them the difference between a plot and a theme and characterization and all that, having taught creative writing and literature to gifted children. Never too early to start that, because in the schools in particular, they promote summer reading programs, but it's a lot of quantity and quality, and yet it's just how many good books they can read over the summer, but it isn't really promoting their understanding of the books or their appreciation of the writing on an artistic level with the dialogue and the plot and theme and so on. So it's interesting that that's being done.
One of our goals for those 3-year-olds is to sit through the entire story.
That's a start. That's a start, definitely. 3-year-olds, yes. I think I was picturing an older, young but older group there. Okay. Yeah. And the e-books is something that younger and younger children are also being introduced to at home. They know how to use computers a lot better than people my age, and so on. It's amazing.
E-books are certainly a growing and complicated aspect of our work. Nicole's kind of been the library's point person on this, going back 2 or 3 years as the very beginnings of our involvement launched there. And
do we want to get into that now? Are there other things? I mean, we can skip around here. We're covering all kinds of important things. So if there are more things concerning the strategic plan or current programs that you want to stress.
Well, I would say just 2 quick things about that are in the works with the strategic plan. One of the things is that we will try to be a bit closer to the front of the line in technology adaptation, and we'll show you a couple of examples of that here in the next few minutes. And the other thing that we look forward to doing really in the next year's time is to doing some updates and some freshening and some rearrangement of the library building, which certainly people think of as the new library.
Right,
but
and yet, as you reminded me,
has been in service since 1999.
Time does fly.
And is showing a bit of wear and tear here and there, and is laid out perhaps a little differently than we would do it now, as people's use of the building and their desire, especially for space to work together and meet together, has evolved. So we'll be doing some looking hard at the building and seeing how it can be adapted for the next generation of use.
Okay. When you talk about working together and meeting together, are you referring to the main meeting rooms? Because I know there are a lot of groups in town that either currently use or have used the library for meeting place. Like the Artist Guild, I don't know if it's back there, but it was there for a long time and then moved elsewhere. The Downers Grove Music Club was there for a long time and then moved elsewhere for various reasons, but it was a mainstay for a long time. The Writers' Workshop is still meeting there. The American Association of University Women meets there. There are so many groups that meet there, and that's another wonderful asset for the community because it's centrally located and a wonderful space. It can be bigger, smaller. There's the kitchen, the bathrooms are right there. What more can I say?
You said it all.
Okay, well, I'm happy to help.
We have a good-sized meeting room that handles groups of 50 to 100, and that is constantly booked, both through our own programs and
community groups,
right.
and
a lot going on there. But where we see the need and the demand is for smaller spaces, where 2 or 3 students working on a project really need a space to sit down together. Or where a tutor and a student need a quiet spot for a small room.
Okay.
And we have a couple of those spaces now, and they are in tremendous demand. One of the things that staff consistently identified as a public need is a greater capacity for that kind of small group meeting spaces that don't involve a public program or anything like that, but that involve being able to work and collaborate without disturbing other people.
That's very interesting. Okay.
So that's some of the kind of things we're looking at. And I think that's my list of the big things in the strategic plan.
Okay, very impressive. Let's hear about ebooks.
All right. Well, we do offer ebooks and audiobooks for patrons to download from the library. And we've been offering that for over 2 years now, actually. And they are compatible on a wide variety of devices. I did bring a few with me today, but examples would be iPads, Kindles, Nooks, Sony readers, smartphones if you have a smartphone. It's just a simple downloading an app and then accessing an ebook anywhere you'd like at any time. So, and we've really seen great growth since we started offering this service each month. It continues to grow.
Okay, and I'm below basic when it comes to this, so I will ask some questions that probably a lot of people know the answer to already, but just in case anyone else doesn't. Once a book is downloaded, is it due back at a certain time? I mean, does it disappear from the device at a certain time? Is there a way to prevent the person from owning it without having paid for it? Which I guess would be equivalent to somebody taking a book and photocopying all the pages without permission. But how does that work?
Sure. No, those are excellent questions. Currently, you can check out a book, ebook, for up to 2 weeks, and it is automatically returned at the end of those 2 weeks.
Okay.
No overdue.
No overdue.
Right.
No overdue. But if you're not done and you've got a page or 2 left, I guess you could renew it.
There are no renewals at this point, but you can recheck the item out.
Okay.
And they are, what happens is every title has digital rights information, which controls, keeping the item and then having it returned. So at the end of the return period, the item is no longer accessible to you on your device. So we don't do much with that. That's all tied in with the publisher and the digital rights management attached to each title. And it works pretty well. So.
And if someone is done with a book, say in 2 or 3 days, they can just return it, or do they still have to wait for it to automatically go back?
You can return it early.
Okay.
Yes.
And why is that a 2-week period when a regular book is still 3 weeks?
So we're part of a consortium of
more demand. So
yes, about 30 libraries across the Chicago metropolitan area. So it's actually made at the consortial level, and so far 2 weeks has been able to keep up with the demand that we have, because we've got a lot of patrons that we're serving, and there's a growing demand for it. So we're just trying to keep up with that demand that the patrons have to get ebooks.
Okay. Go ahead.
This is a really growing phenomenon.
Yeah.
The Pew Center for the Internet in Philadelphia, PEW,
Okay.
is doing major research in this area. And a survey that they did a few months ago indicated that 20% of U.S. adults had at some point read a long text on a device. And each Christmas, closer to 20% of the population owns one. And Nicole and her colleagues had a lot of fun in the 2 weeks after Christmas as people came in and said, I got this thing. I'm supposed to be able to read a book on it.
Yeah,
what do I do?
what do I do?
And in a number of cases, the devices weren't even out of the box yet.
That's right.
Well, that'd be me if I had one.
So helping people master the devices, and we have 4 different electronic tools here on the table. Each of them has its own rules and protocols and quirks and tricks, and they are challenging even to the skillful to keep up with. So if you want to be a reader of ebooks, mastering the device upon which you will do this is a significant undertaking, and the library is ready to help with that.
Are there actual courses? I seem to recall seeing classes being offered, and there might be one-on-one help too, like if you book a librarian or something. Okay.
Yeah, I do offer usually 2 to 3 classes a month on how to download ebooks or audiobooks to your device. And I offer them at different times, in the evenings. Particularly after the holiday rush, I was offering quite a few. I think I did 5 in a short amount of time. But we are more than happy to help any patron who comes up to the desk and just needs some one-on-one help with their device. And people call in advance, and we set up a mutual time that we can help someone. Or sometimes people just come in, they don't call in advance, and we help them then too. So we do both. We offer courses, and we also offer just one-on-one help that someone might need.
Now see, I am very, very impressed by this, because I can see that a library could say that its job is just to have the books there, and it's up to you to figure out how to use your device in order to read them, just like it's up to you to learn how to read, or if you're from a foreign country, you have to learn how to read English in order to read. The library isn't responsible for teaching you English, kind of thing. But the fact that the library is going those extra steps to do that, not only with ebooks, I have to mention the computer classes and so on too, that Annie Jagielski is doing, because they are wonderful and I have taken some of them. And I think it is just fantastic that the library is offering free programs on using Facebook, on using the internet itself and researching, on using Word. I'm just thrilled. I'm really thrilled. My husband and I had seen notices in the Discoveries newsletter, and the first time there weren't any dates I could make it, and he kept saying, you need to take all of these, probably more than once. And so finally, with his prodding, I signed up, and I have to say, I definitely am very happy with the booklet that one takes home, so there's a possibility of referring to it later on if you don't remember everything from the class. But Annie is a wonderful teacher, the classes are great, and I'm very impressed with the library for doing this. I'm sorry I didn't notice it sooner, but that's wonderful. And then back to the ebooks. There are so many questions about that. I seem to be under the impression that there are different kinds of devices whereby some books can be accessed and others can't. Like, I seem to recall friends saying, oh, they got this kind of a device, but they, like at Barnes & Noble, they couldn't access certain books or something, and that you had to have this kind of a device in order to do this. But libraries have worked it out so that they can get any book if it's an ebook.
we wish we could say a simple yes to that,
Not
Joyce.
yet. Okay, but you're working on it, I'm sure.
It's
Okay.
a complicated marketplace environment.
Okay.
For the first couple years of the ebook world, Amazon, which is the dominant distributor of ebooks, half of the ebook business is being done by Amazon. They would not play nice with libraries at all.
Okay.
They would not make any of their ebook files available to libraries for distribution to Amazon Kindle owners. Last fall, I believe, Amazon decided that they would enter the library marketplace, and the use of Kindle formatted ebooks is now about half of the overall use among our ebook readers.
Really? Wow.
There's also great trepidation among the publishers about the notion that libraries are just giving away their stuff for free. They just put it out there, and anyone in the world can take it and copy it, and so on. And they are channeling what happened in the recorded music industry some time back, when illegal and rapacious theft of recorded music became the dominant distribution mode. And the music business was irreparably damaged. So a few of the publishers are really quite frightened, and they've had a variety of responses. The big six that the librarians talk about really don't play nice with libraries. And one of them, HarperCollins, will sell you an ebook, but it will evaporate after 26 loans. And if you want to keep it, you can buy it again. Random House will sell you an ebook at 4 or 5 times the retail price.
I see. Okay, well, that's not the kind of thing we want to hear, and yet ebooks are here and here to stay. So hopefully librarians and readers will manage to fix things so that it will work more smoothly, because it's a part of life now. And I know people complain about, they like holding the book, and I do too, but on the other hand, there's the recycling aspect, and a book isn't just its format, it is the story and the ideas and all of the thought and everything, and the information that goes into it, so people need to remember that too. We are just about out of time. It would be wonderful if you would verbally say any of the websites if you want to do that, or make one very quick last point. We will certainly put the websites and other information in the credits, and we haven't covered everything, but I think we've done a pretty good job on a couple of things here at least.
All good things can be found at www.downersgrovelibrary.org.
I love it. Okay. I don't know, is there any one thought you want to leave people with? The library is more than books. It's more than reading. It's writing. It's music. It's performances. It's all kinds of stuff. Summer reading is on. Bring the kids in to sign up for a pizza-themed summer reading club, and we'll cook it up for them. Sounds good. Okay. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this information. It's very valuable. The library is definitely an asset to the community. Thank you for watching. Please join me again for future episodes of Today's Tidings.